What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about who should you be summoning for in the update 3.2, whether it be Castorice, Anaxa, Acheron, Fugue, Jiaoqiu, or Dr. Ratio. I'm going to be discussing each and every one of those characters and whether that character would be a good pull for your account. So if you enjoy this type of content, let me know by liking the video, leaving a comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, check me out on Twitch over at twitch.tv/iSUMMON UID. I am live almost every day over there, doing live calculations, live discussions like this one, and also doing account reviews. So if that's something that interests you, please check the link in the description and check me out over at twitch.tv/iSUMMON UID. All right, starting with the heavy hitter of the anniversary, Castorice. How much value does Castorice bring to a free-to-play account, low spender account, a new player? This is very important, guys, because I think this anniversary is more geared towards new players than anybody else, and I'll explain why. And also, we have our dolphins and our whales. Dolphins and whales are going to pick up a copy of Castorice regardless, so I'm not too concerned about talking to them right now. Let's talk to my free-to-play people. My free-to-play people are going to be in an interesting spot because if you haven't picked up Herta, if you haven't picked up Aglaya, if you haven't picked up Mighty, then you probably don't have one of the best DPSs in the game, and Castorice is here to take that spot in your account. Castorice, unless you don't like her design or her playstyle, is going to be a very, very strong character DPS wise. As a main DPS, is going to be a very, very potent character to help you bridge the gap between this MOC and the following future MOCs. Since Herta release, all the MOCs have been AoE focused, and Castorice would destroy pretty much all of them. So for my free-to-play players, Castorice is a fantastic pickup. We're going to go more into depth into what she actually brings to the table, but I just want to give a little TLDR. For my newer players, right, I'm considered a new player as well because I started a new account about 17 days ago, and we are on our way to getting a copy of Castorice because this is going to give us a much-needed boost so we can start clearing some of the MOC and some of the other end game modes that we have on the game. For a new player, the global passive, which we have to talk about because we can't ignore it. We don't want it in the game, but they left it in the game, so we have to talk about it. The Sanctuary of Moon Cocoon Revive is going to be a godsend for a lot of new players. And new players are a demographic that I think Hoyo is targeting, because if they join during the anniversary, the character that they're more likely to pull is going to be Castorice, and Castorice is going to pretty much carry them through the entire story because one, she's AoE. AoE characters are better at the story. Second, the Revive is going to allow you to mitigate that one condition from MOC that you can't have a character die. If you play MOC, you already know that one of the conditions for clearing MOC with 3 stars is that none of your characters can die. Well, Castorice is going to prevent that from happening at least one time, and that may be what a free-to-play or a lower invested player may need to actually clear with 3 stars. So this by itself is going to allow them to get that 3rd star and be able to clear. So off the bat, her free-to-play value is really, really high. Her new player value is really, really high. And then her fun value, her animations are one of the best in the game. I would argue they're the best animations in the game. Her damage is among the best in the game. So everything that Castorice brings to the table is among the best in the game. The only thing that she doesn't do the best in the game at is her buffing capabilities, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Aside from that, Castorice is just a masterful pickup for pretty much any account. If you want a fun, intricate character, Castorice is the character. If you want a high damage dealing character, Castorice is the character. If you want a character that's going to propel your new account or a free-to-play account, allow you to clear more end-game content, Castorice is going to be the character for you. But what exactly does she bring to your account, aside from massive damage, right? If we read the ultimate here, she summons the Memo Sprite Netherwing and activates its action by 100%. Creates a territory, Lost Netherland, which decreases all enemies all type res by 20%. Now, what do I highlight this part? That all type res by 20% is most DPS's E6. A lot of E6s have all type res reduction or all type res ignore by about 20 to 24%. In short, this is a massive astronomical damage buff to not only herself, but the entire team and anybody who's played with her. So you could actually play her as kind of like a buffing character. You set up her territory, everybody gets all type res by 20%, and there you go. Also, aside from that, she gets you, when the dragon is out, your allies get 10% damage bonus as well. So while the dragon is out, your DPS is going to increase by 10%, or not your DPS, your damage bonus is increased by 10%, and your res pen increases by 20%, which is a pretty significant amount of damage increase. Aside from that, you don't need to run a healer specifically with Castorice because she kind of heals the team and prevents him from dying while the dragon is out as well. Remember, when the dragon is out, your team can't die. The dragon takes all the damage. If the dragon dies, then the dragon just goes away and you can still heal. But if you blow up the dragon, your team will heal again. So she kind of acts kind of like a support in the sense that she's going to buff your damage, and she's also going to give you a little bit of healing. And this is all aside from her main damage, which is among the highest, if not the highest in the game. Also, with her new set, she's relatively easy to build. She gets 18.7% crit rate on her traces. Her set gives herself 32 plus the 5 that we already have. That's already about 55%. So if you're just starting out the game and you don't have a lot of gear, if you farm the new set and you get a crit rate body, you're almost at 100% crit rate with your Castorice. RMC is free, which is her best in slot support for free-to-play characters or for free-to-play players. So you already have half the team already locked and loaded just by pulling Castorice and farming her set. So all in all, she's easy to build, incredible value, makes your team not die while she's in the team, and also while she's not in the team because of the damn global passive. So overall, she's a tremendous value to, I'd say, any account, but specifically for newer and free-to-play players. I would say the only reason you don't summon for Castorice is only if you don't like her character design at all, or you want to get Eidolons for Anaxa, or you want to get Eidolons for somebody like Phynon or something like that. And I know I'm going to get a little bit of flack for this, but I recommend free-to-play players, newer players, to just get a copy of Castorice at least. Her Lycon situation is a little bit rough, but I have a video discussing that, and hopefully they remedy that in the future. Next up, we're going to talk about the 2nd anniversary unit, Anaxa, and this is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of a character, right? As a DPS character, Anaxa just has pretty much a little bit of everything. Has bonus for the rest of the team, has damage bonus for the rest of the team, has defense reduction for itself. If you get the Lycon, you get defense reduction for the entire team. Colorless breaking, you can bring Anaxa into any team and then make any DPS break the enemies. You can use Anaxa as a break option with your free RMC and HMC. So Anaxa has a lot of utility outside of just helping Herta, because the common misconception is that Anaxa is there to just buff Herta. Yes, he is there to buff Herta, but also Anaxa is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of a character. And we're going to go a little bit in depth. First of all, he has really good damage potential, and his damage doesn't really drop off. His in-game mechanics kind of make it to where the AoE damage technically is higher, but as the enemies reduce in numbers, his effective damage increases if there's less enemies, because since his attack bounces, it bounces more on the one enemy, dealing more damage to that one enemy. So where is Anaxa's value for a free-to-play player, new player, and or a whale or a dolphin? Again, whales and dolphins are going to get a copy of Anaxa anyway. I'm probably just going to go for E0 S0. I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm going to go with for Anaxa. I'm kind of torn because I kind of want the E2, but I can't convince myself to get it. For free-to-play players, I think Anaxa is a decent pick, especially if you have Herta. I think if you have Herta, I think Anaxa is a natural, really strong pick. If you don't have Jade, I mean, Jade and Anaxa are not even close. Like, if you put Anaxa on Herta's team, it's going to perform about a one and a half cycle better than just having Jade. Jade is not only used in Herta teams, she's used in a bunch of different teams. You can use Jade with Tribi, you can use Jade with a bunch of people. Anaxa as well. So if you have Jade already, I think Anaxa loses a little bit of value, but even then, Anaxa is still an upgrade to Jade in all of Jade's teams. I'd say Anaxa is kind of like the Jiaoqiu for the Herta. I would say that. Now, for a new player, it's a little bit different. I think it's still worth it, but it's a little bit different. So if you go for Castorice, let's say you started like my free-to-play account, right? We started it about 3 weeks ago, around 3 weeks ago. We have Tribi, we got Mighty, right? We don't need the Anaxa right now because one team is going to be Mighty, the other team is going to be Castorice. Had we not gotten Mighty, then I might have gotten Anaxa, because then I would have one team with Anaxa and some other erudition character, and then the other team would just be Castorice with RMC and Tribi. Now, what does Anaxa bring for a new player? For a new player, Anaxa brings the versatility of you don't have to switch your teams depending on what fight. Anaxa is a great DPS. Anaxa is a great debuffer. Anaxa is a great breaker, which is very important for new players. Breaking the enemy's toughness is extremely important for new players. I think having Anaxa and Serval both together, running them on the same team with somebody else, for a new player to run through the story is going to yield incredible results. You're never going to have to worry about changing your teams ever again. Now, for end game, for a new player or for the free play player, Anaxa also brings a little bit of flexibility. It allows you to bring whatever DPS you want because you know you're going to get the weakness to break them and enable more damage. I think if you're a free-to-play player that can already clear the end game, Anaxa loses a little bit more value because you kind of don't need it. But I'd say if you are a free-to-play player and you have Herta, even if you can clear the end game already, if you have Herda as a free-to-play player or a new player, then I would strongly consider getting Anaxa, because he is a massive upgrade in terms of overall team performance and damage. All right, but what does Anaxa actually bring to the team? So the first thing is going to be implanting every single weakness, so it allows everybody in your team to help breaking. Second thing he's going to bring is protection or interruption of enemies via his sublimation state, which is kind of like a welt ultimate that you're able to interrupt enemies in the middle of their actions, and that way you mitigate a lot of the damage. Another thing that is going to bring is going to be the damage dealt by allies 50%. So if you have another erudition character on your team, which let's say Herda is an erudition character, Serval, the Herda, the little Herda, the big Herda, both of them are erudition characters. Argenti's an erudition character. You get a 50% damage bonus just by having him on the team. To put it into perspective, that is Robin's skill. That is also Tingyun's ultimate gives you 50% damage bonus. It's a lot of damage bonus to get just from having, just for free, just for having him on the team. You get a 50% damage bonus. I think that's pretty crazy. I think that's really good. When it was 30, it was good enough. They buffed it to 40. It was great. Now it's 50. It's insane. Aside from that, he deals really good personal damage. He deals 70% of Anaxa's attack to one designated enemy, and it bounces 4 more times, so it's a total of 5 times. So this one skill is 350% multiplier. But since he gets a free one, if you have 5 weaknesses on the enemies, you get a total of 700% multiplier. To put it into perspective, Fei Zhao's ultimate is a total of 700 multiplier. So you're getting kind of like a Fei Zhao ultimate just with this. Obviously, Fei Zhao gets her own multiplier. She gets her own damage amplification from her own kit, which is a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot more than Anaxa gets, but it's still the same amount of multiplier, chat. So it's really strong. It's really good damage. It's not as good as it used to be, because it used to be extremely busted, but now they buffed it down a little bit or nerfed it down a little bit, but it's still really good damage. Also, each of these bounces, each of them deals 5 break, which means one skill gets up to 50 break, which is insane. Like I said, having a good breaker for a lot of new players and free-to-play players is insanely strong. So to summarize, Anaxa for a new player has really good value, especially if you have Herda. If you don't have Herda, he still has good value, but I would probably just build somebody else instead. Unless you're just starting. If you're just starting, I think to get yourself off the ground, Anaxa, like if you just start at 3.2 on Anaxa's turn, or if you lose the 50-50 to Castorice, getting Anaxa is actually a very good option for you to go through the game. You don't need it, but it's going to be a lot easier to have Anaxa on your squad. Now, for a free-to-play player, again, if you have Herda, I think you would benefit greatly from getting Anaxa. You don't need Anaxa if you already have a good Herda team with Serval and Dummy Herda or even Jade. Anaxa is a 100% upgrade. Like it's such a good upgrade to whatever other erudition you have with your big Herda. So it's a really good consideration. Like you just should consider getting at least a copy of Anaxa. Throw like 30 pulls in there to see if you get lucky and you get the Anaxa. Obviously for Dolphins, he's a very fun character. His E1 and E2 make him one of the best debuffers in the game. I will discuss that in a later video. And then for whales, they're gonna have a lot of fun with Anaxa. He's just crazy. All right, let's talk about the last year's anniversary character, Acheron. Is she still worth it? In my opinion, if you're going to compare Acheron to getting Castorice, I don't think she is that worth it. But there's a bunch of things that make Acheron really good and a really good option to get. If you got lucky on Castorice and you got her in like the first 10 pull, maybe throwing a few multis into Acheron's banner might not be the bad idea, especially if you are a newer player. And there's only one reason for that, is this technique right here. This technique is so strong. It allows you to go through the story without having to fight any enemies. Essentially, all you have to do is farm the little technique point energy thingies. You can technique all the ads in the overworld and just pretty much one-shot them as you go. This will save you so much time while going through the story and farming the overworld. It's actually insane. It also saves you a lot of time in simulated universe and divergent universe. In any type of simulated universe scenario, this will save you a lot of time as well. So this technique alone might be a reason to just like it might be good enough to just pull or do a few multis on Acheron's banner to see if you get lucky. Aside from that, Acheron's still very strong. The only problem with Acheron, that is, if you are a free-to-play player, if you are a newer type player, you may not have some of her best Lycone options. And by that, I mean the Good Night and Sleep Well Lycone is one of her best options. You may not have this Lycone because it's a gacha Lycone. And also another Lycone that's very good on her that came out even after that is Boundless Choreo, which is probably her best actual Lycone for a 4-star option. You may not have these options, and if you don't have those options, she's not going to do that much. Her signature Lycone is one of those things that she kind of really needs. Not really needs, I'd say really wants, because it gives her an extra stack to get her ultimate. Aside from that, another one of the characters that we're going to look at later on in the video is Jiaoqiu, which is pretty much best in slot support for Acheron. They pretty much go hand in hand. Like, if you have Acheron, then you should consider grabbing a copy of Jiaoqiu. But if you don't have either, I think it's not worth starting to build an Acheron team right now. So I think you're just better off. It's a better bang for your buck if you just invest in a Castorice team instead of an Acheron team if you're starting from scratch. So if you're a new player or a free-to-play player and you don't have either Castorice or Acheron, I would recommend investing in a Castorice team because it's going to have more longevity. Obviously, because Acheron is a year old already and already has the best in slot support for her. Castorice, on the other hand, she's going to come out in about a week and she doesn't have her best in slot partner yet, which presumably will be Hyacinth. We'll see about that. But from a DPS longevity perspective, I think investing in a Castorice team is much better than investing into an Acheron team. But what if you already have your Acheron already? Is investing in her Eidolons good? To be honest, the answer to that question is yes, but only if you are going to go for the E2. If you're not going to go, if you're going to stop at E1, don't do it. If you're gonna get the E2, then I'd say get it, because at E2 you have a lot more flexibility on your supports, right? You can run the Jiaoqiu, and then you can run Sunday, you can run Sparkle, you can run Bronya, you can run pretty much, as long as you have Jiaoqiu in there, it doesn't matter who you run after that. The team is going to perform really well. But I wouldn't recommend just getting the E1. If you have her E1 already, then getting the E2 is 100% worth it, especially if you have Jiaoqiu, or if you are going to go for Jiaoqiu. If you have Acheron E0 S1 and you want to go for the E2, that's a good investment. If not, then don't do it. Just save your Jades, get another character, wait for Acheron to be in the gold shop, save the gold tokens for it. I think it'll be a much better option. Obviously, Whales and Dolphins should already have at least E1 or E2 of this Acheron. So I'm not talking to y'all. At least if you already have E2 Acheron, I wouldn't recommend getting E4 because it's like it's not that much. The damage amplification is not that great. I would only recommend going past E2 if you're gonna go for E6. But at that point, you're just gonna like wail out on Acheron. So if that's your favorite character, she's a great character to have. She's still going to zero cycle at E6 for the foreseeable future. She's insane. Now we're going to kind of talk about Jiaoqiu and Acheron together, right? If you have E0 Acheron, is it worth getting Eidolons for Acheron or Jiaoqiu? All right, let me tell you this. The single best upgrade that you can get for Acheron is Jiaoqiu. That's the single best upgrade. Because it doesn't matter if your Acheron is E0, E0 S1, E2 S1, Jiaoqiu gets you more stacks than the Lycone, gets you more stacks than the E1 and the E2. So if you have E0 as your Acheron already, and you're between E1 or E2 or Jiaoqiu, I would recommend getting Jiaoqiu and then see if you can get to the E2, because I don't recommend getting Jiaoqiu and then stopping at E1 Acheron, because then you're just going to be wasting a little bit, because all the E1 is going to get you is 18% more crit rate. But if you've been playing her at E0, you don't care about the crit rate as much now. Let's transition over to talking about Jiaoqiu, one of the best debuffing characters in the game. I'd say he's the best debuffer character in the game. Insane vulnerability multipliers, works with characters like Argenti, Yunli, Acheron, Herda. He works with pretty much everyone. He is so good, 100% uptime on all of the debuffs. If your character is ultimate focused, then you get a 50% vulnerability at E0 S0. If your character is not ultimate focused, you get at least 35. But if you get the Lycone, which is another 24, you get about either 59 or 74% vulnerability, which is insane amount of damage amplification. You can play him skill point positive. You can play him as a damage dealer. He serves as a dot enabler, so whenever dot gets a resurgence, Jiaoqiu is probably going to be on that team as well, because he buffs dot quite significantly. He has his own. There's not enough good things to say about Jiaoqiu. He's just an incredible character. He ults very fast. He's easy to build. All you need is speed and effect hit rate. If you want to amplify his own damage, all you need is a little bit of attack. But the problem is the same thing that I discussed earlier on. Most people are going to either consider Jiaoqiu because they have Acheron or they want Acheron. And this is obviously not going to apply to my new players or free-to-play players, because if you're a new player or a free-to-play player, I don't recommend building Acheron's team from the ground up right now. I recommend getting a little bit of pieces whenever they come in the shop, if you save enough or if you get lucky enough, getting a few pieces whenever you can. But I wouldn't recommend just going balls to the wall and getting Acheron and Jiaoqiu and then trying to build a team from there. I would much rather you spend your Jades in Castorice and maybe get Castorice and her light cone, or maybe get Castorice and her light cone would be a much better investment for a newer or a free-to-play player that doesn't have Acheron already. Hopefully that kind of makes it easier to understand. Like Jiaoqiu and Acheron pretty much go hand in hand, and I wouldn't recommend newer players getting Acheron or Jiaoqiu instead of a Castorice or an Anaxa, if that makes any sense. Staying in the topic of Foxians, we have Fugue also rerunning, one of the better characters to have in the game. And honestly, if at face value, she doesn't bring that much. She just gets you exo toughness, which is a very, very good mechanic to have for break teams. And if you are invested in break teams, then definitely Fugue is a character that you want to get. She also works with Acheron, but not as well as Jiaoqiu. And aside from that, she kind of enables super break outside of HMC, which is probably her main selling point. If you are going to transform your HMC into an RMC, and then your super break team is going to need RMC or HMC, then Fugue is going to be a character that's going to fill in that gap, which is pretty much her purpose. So what she brings to the table is her skill. Her skill allows any character to have universal toughness reduction. So it doesn't matter what type you are, you're going to be able to reduce their toughness. You also reduce their defense by 18%. And also, your whole team gets access to exo toughness, which is her talent. Exo toughness is pretty much a second break bar that the enemies get after their initial break bar. It's a much smaller break bar, so you're able to break enemies twice and get that same break damage pretty much 2 times in a row. And that's what makes Fugue very, very strong and a very good competitor against HMC. Actually, I think she's a little better than HMC in a lot of cases. But here's my opinion when it comes to summoning Fugue. Like, if you are a break player, if you have your Firefly, if you have Rappa, if you have Ruan Mei, Boothill, all those really, really strong break characters, and you want to play more than one of them at a time, then Fugue is a very good investment for you, because you're going to be able to play HMC on one side, Fugue on the other side. Now, would I recommend anyone summon for Fugue unless they're going to focus or unless they're going to improve their break team? No, I do not recommend it. Even though she's a good debuffer, she's a good breaker, she's a good exo toughness. Well, she's the only exo toughness enabler, and then she makes your DP as a good breaker. I don't recommend getting Fugue because you already have HMC, and then you can find another option for your RMC substitute, right? You don't need RMC. RMC enables a lot of true damage, which is a good hefty damage amplification. RMC doesn't enable a playstyle the same way HMC does. So if you have HMC already built and ready to go, and you only use one break team in every MOC, Pure Fiction, or whatever it may be, then you don't need Fugue. I would recommend not going for Fugue. Now, if you already have Fugue and you want some Eidolons, I'd say it's a little bit worth it because you already have her, right? So I'm going to presume that you already have the break teams already built up, and the 50% weakness break efficiency on Foxy and Prayer is actually insane. My Fugue is E1 because I just like Boothill, and then Fugue and Boothill are just masterful together. Now her E2 is actually very insane too. Essentially gives her the Thief set and the Dance 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 effect in her Eidolon. So she pretty much combines a relic set and a light cone and puts it into an Eidolon, which is really, really insane. Gives her a Dance 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 every time she ults. And to my opinion, it kind of changes her playstyle quite significantly, because she now goes from just a regular I'm just there helping you break to an active ultimate user, ultimate spammer. I would say Fugue has among the lowest value of the characters that we have discussed so far, because even if you have a break team, you can still run HMC and it's still very, very good. So Fugue is not doing something that another character can't do except for the exo toughness, and that really it's a buff to characters like Rappa and Boothill. Is not necessarily a buff per se to a character like Firefly, for example. So even if you have Firefly, you can just run Firefly with HMC and it'll be completely fine. All right, and the last character we're going to talk about is Dr. Ratio. I mean, this is just don't pull for Dr. Ratio unless he's your favorite character in all of Honkai Star Rail, unless he is the absolute beast that you want to build and hyper invest into him. I won't recommend summoning for Ratio. He's just not that great. So he's just a bad pickup at this point. I don't know. I'm just a little bit disappointed that it took him like almost a year and a half to rerun Dr. Ratio for him to just be completely and utterly useless at this point. So yeah, just don't summon Dr. Ratio unless he is your favorite character in all of history, okay? that's pretty much it. All right, guys, this is going to be the end of my pull analysis for 3.2 of the anniversary patch. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What are your pull plans for this patch? Put them all in the comments, and I'll catch you all next time. See ya.